Good morning and a warm welcome to everybody, particularly given the weather outside. Just before we came, since we are running late, I'll make it quick. Before we came in here, we discussed among ourselves, whether we want to run through our presentation slides, and all of us perhaps agreed that instead of, all of us spending and, putting you all to sleep perhaps with all our slides, what we would do is we would quickly run through our slides, and rather than just going through our dry presentations, which more often than not ends up becoming pitching for one technology or product or another, we would rather debate and also interact with the audience. It's very rare that we have the occasion of having such illustrious communication specialists on to a single stage. Perhaps combined they have more than 150 years of experience amongst them. So I guess it would be better if we all run through a shorter version of our slides and rather debate among ourselves, including the audience. That would be time more effectively spent, and it will allow us to be awake too. So without much ado, I will just quickly. What I'm going to do is I will also skip through most of the slides. All of us know about the smart grid. The definition or the view or whatever we call it, it's very difficult to get a definition. So we all agree that it's an integration of not just communications or IT, but let's say generically the information and the electrical infrastructure. But to gloss over all of this, but what does it has to deliver? If you look at the current RAP DRP program, communications is entirely absent, other than just byline items saying, AMR should be in GSM, CDMA, and so on and so forth. Yes, logically so, but this has to change. But broadly speaking, communications has to anticipate the challenges of tomorrow for smart grid. In terms of business applications, it has to, deliver the current requirements in terms of the key foundation requirements for running the grid, and obviously anticipate the emerging capabilities for tomorrow. Given that perspective, let me perhaps gloss over most of my slides, but come to some network considerations in terms of when we talk of smart grid enabling, having a sensor network, having all endpoints communicate with each other. These are some of the requirements from the communication side that perhaps we need to look into in terms of just to take an example, if you look at the current AMR, how many states can actually deliver energy audit? That was the goal. How many towns? Mr. Manesab is here. There are people from the other utility. How many towns actually, so to say, when they have gone live, can actually deliver energy audit? And if not, why not? These are some of the questions that, the SRS is perhaps, defined all the business requirements very well. And I was there just to give an example on the PFC, at the PFC meeting on the 9th of Jan in Mumbai. And here's one statement that I saw it on the presentation from the state of Gujarat, and it said that the data is, we get the data from 50% to 90%. What yardstick does that give us? 50% to 90%, there's 100% difference. How can we achieve any business function? And when we talk of, it should support on request read in seconds. My colleague, Mr. Mane very rightfully pointed out yesterday that we would perhaps do near real-time analytics with regard to meter data, so that you could do an effective demand-side management. The first thing is obviously, let's at least have an hourly reading. So what are the communication requirements for those? Do we just gloss over saying that it's GSM, CDMA, or do we actually get down, to the nitty-gritty and say that fine, let's divide the network, into say the home area network, the field area network. What are the latency? What are the QoS? These are some of the considerations that need to be looked into. And if not, so I'm going to go perhaps gloss over a lot of these slides, which are perhaps better dealt at work group 3 meetings. They'll be available on the site. You could download it. In terms of what I have done is I've divided them into network layer, session layer, transport layer, and perhaps we have made an attempt to define what the requirements would be to meet some of those business requirements. But this is the current state as I was speaking. How do we go and tell the utility, fine, with the good intention that these are the things that they want to do, but what is the current status? I mean, utilities are not meeting the business processes and the requirements. I know for a fact that, I spend a lot of my time grappling with things like ping status and, signal strength or signal to noise ratio. And we shouldn't be doing this in the first place. I mean, we look at all RAP, DRP, and a lot of us are involved with RAP, DRP program. I mean, I want to ask how many of us are actually spending more time in delivering business requirements, and how many of us are actually troubleshooting to make sure that even the basics are met in terms of communication. And the story is perhaps the same everywhere. And why is this so? I mean, when we, for example, look at the current SRS, it defines all the electrical equipments with a very high degree of granularity. I mean, everything is defined. But when we look at the communications, from the communications perspective, everything is defined for 50,000 feet. It's just use GSM, just use CDMA. There is no differentiation in terms of we need a robust field area network. For example, even today we talk of, shall we use PLC or shall we use local RF without actually getting into the merits. Would PLC be okay for a field area network or an in-premise network? And if yes, what would be the modulation? Would something that works equally well in Mumbai work as well in Delhi, given the conditions being entirely different? These are real-time questions on which we need to put our thoughts to, because a lot of money has been spent, a lot of money is being proposed to be spent. So with that perspective, what we can do is instead of me spending time on the presentations, I would much rather that we debate upon this and interact and have a more lively session so that we could perhaps have a viewpoint on all these questions that we have. Thank you so much. With that, I would like Mr. Bhupinder Rit to start, give us an overview of ISIN, and we'll perhaps make it quick so that we can get on to this debate. Thank you so much.